Welcome to Nuestro Norte, our North, a bilingual podcast about Latino migration and community building in Mendocino, California. I'm Loreto Rojas.
And I am Diana Coriat. We are local media makers and we are on a mission. Our quest is to open up how we think about history and culture here in this rural area, 4 hours north of San Francisco.
Let's start by acknowledging that the Pomo people were here first. They are the ancestral guardians of this rugged coast and its redwood forests.
That's right. But what's mostly celebrated here are the colonial settlers who arrived in the 19th and 20th century to start the lumber and fishing industries, which dominated this area for over 100 years. Their stories and photos can be found in museums and on monuments all over town.
Yes, but what is missing from this picture still is nuestra historia. The generations of Mexicans, Central and South Americans that also make up the fabric of this place, that came here to find work, fall in love, raise families, and create a community. We have been here for a long time.
Yeah, let's think about it. California was Mexico until 1848. Once a state, migrants, mostly men, came here to do seasonal work. Eventually, men, women, and children began to arrive and settle here in greater numbers.
Latinos now make up about 30% of Mendocino County, and around 50% of school children are Latino. But our contributions, our struggles, our people have not been recognized as part of that history.
Yet.
When we Latinos say El Norte, we are talking about crossing the border into the United States. But also finding our North is that place inside of us when we know we are on the right path.
Welcome to Nuestro Norte, our North. This episode is the story of Teresa, who traveled to El Norte many hours past the border to find her Norte. It's a story of determination, bravery, and community building.
Traje aquí un periódico, es el mes de agosto, es del periódico Al Punto, todos los artículos están en español. ¿Qué tal les fue con la tarea?
It's 6 p.m. at Mendocino Community College on a brisk summer evening in 2023. I can see and smell the ocean from where I stand, right outside of La Maestra Teresa's classroom, here in Fort Bragg, California. The one-story building is nearly empty.
Pero traje especialmente porque viene la fotografía de los estudiantes que se graduaron este verano, entonces para que la vean.
Teresa worked all day, and this is her evening class. Her students also came here from their day jobs to study for their GED, the high school equivalency exam. This is their first day of class. I am immediately struck by her strong, calm presence. She is tall, with long dark hair streaked with gray, neatly tied back. Her brown eyes are bright, kind, and reassuring. The classroom is buzzing with conversation and laughter. She is passing out copies of a local newspaper called Periódico Al Punto.
Está incluido Fort Bragg, Willis, Lake County. Todos los colegios.
Teresa holds up the front page of the newspaper. Right in the center is a photo of 54 smiling Latinos and Latinas, proudly holding up their GED diplomas. Small acts such as this, she hopes, will keep her students focused on their own dreams of graduating.
Cuando yo supe de la Maestra Teresa a través de mi hermana, yo siempre sentí que era una persona que inspiraba y como que sentía que me daba posibilidades.
This is Ligia, one of our community producers and one of Teresa's former students who took this class not too long ago. She interviewed her for this podcast. Ligia is telling us here that Teresa has been an inspiration for her.
Y ya cuando la conocí en persona, cumplió todas mis expectativas y un poquito más porque siempre ha sido una persona que me ha dicho, tú puedes hacerlo, solamente confía en ti, cree en ti y las cosas se van a dar.
Teresa always told her, things are going to work out as long as you believe in yourself. She has been encouraging her students like this for more than 2 decades.
Pues uno de los obstáculos digamos que son muy comunes es que, especialmente si eres mujer, pues ya estás muy grande, tienes hijos, ya no puedes estudiar. Entonces es como se desaniman fácilmente por la presión familiar y de la sociedad.
Teresa is especially attuned to the way women are often discouraged by their families and society from returning to school, because it's something she has lived through herself. But as you will see in her story, she loves to learn as much as she loves to teach. And once she makes up her mind to achieve something, she's unstoppable.
Pues fue una larga cadena de situaciones en mi vida que me hicieron llegar a la necesidad de buscar un trabajo desesperadamente.
Teresa was born in León, Guanajuato, in 1966. Many things that happened in her early years led her to leave her home at the age of 15 and search for a way to support herself.
Fue una niña muy rebelde. Mis padres no querían que estudiara, no creían en la educación. Y yo pues terminé la secundaria, quería continuar, pero era un pleito constante entre mis papás y las responsabilidades que tenía que adoptar para ayudar a mi madre. Entonces, un día se llegó, me corrieron y me refugié en un convento.
Teresa was the oldest daughter and the only female among 5 brothers. Her parents wanted her to stop studying so that she could help out at home. They didn't think education was important, but she disagreed. The tension got so bad that one day she left. With no money and nowhere to live, she found refuge in a convent.
Me gustaba estudiar, me gustaba todo lo que hacía en la costura, con la madre Conchita, estaba en la cocina, me sacaban a recogerla, a pedir fruta. Hacíamos muchas cosas, hacíamos galletas para tener dinero para el internado.
She loved sewing, cooking, baking, and the sense of sisterhood she felt there. Best of all, she was attending high school.
Yo fui de los primeros estudiantes que iniciaron ese proyecto de la educación para adultos, yendo a las casas de los adultos a enseñarnos a leer, escribir, o a las fábricas a enseñar a estudiantes a que obtuvieran su diploma de secundaria y luego el de preparatoria abierta.
This was her first real teaching experience. Helping adults to learn to read and write would shape her in many ways she would only understand years later.
Me gustaba porque pues ayudábamos gente y aparte me sentía yo muy bien emocionalmente y espiritualmente, me sentía satisfecha, me sentía contenta, me faltaba mi familia y todo, pero no había gritos, no había pleitos, no había nada.
Helping people was rewarding for her emotionally and spiritually. She did miss her family, but not the arguments.
After 5 years of convent life, now 20 years old, she got a call from her mother. She wanted her to move back home to help with her younger brothers and sisters. Teresa knew that if she left the convent, that would be the end of her education. But she made the decision to put her family first.
Y me acuerdo que, sí, cuando volteé yo así para ver hacia atrás, sí, veía que estaban 4 madres ahí en la calle, haciendo señas con las manos. Y, ¡ay! Sentí tan horrible, pero dije, me tengo que ir, está mi familia primero.
One morning, Teresa simply walked out of the convent, hailed a taxi, and begged him to leave quickly before she was caught. As she looked through the back window, she saw 4 nuns waving to stop the cab. She felt terrible, but she had to do it.
She went to Mexico City where she was reunited with her family.
Yeah, Loreto, she became a police officer.
In one of the biggest cities in the world.
It wasn't an easy life, but things were going well. She continued helping her family and was even able to save some money.
One day, she got a call that her brother was visiting from the United States. Another call that would change her life.
Mi hermano estaba de visita. Entonces fui y me encontré con mi hermano, pues yo iba muy gustosa, llevaba mis Volkswagen y quería que él viera que había hecho yo algo, ¿verdad? Que había progresado un poco después de tantas cosas que habíamos pasado. Pues nos abrazamos, estábamos emocionados de vernos y ya dice, ¿cómo viniste? Le dije, no, pues vine en carro. Le hace, sí, ¿qué carro tiene? Le digo, no, pues ese carro, ese Volkswagen gris es mío. Le hace, uy, no, esos carros en Estados Unidos están en la basura. Pues sentí como, un trago de saliva muy pesado. Dije, ¿cómo que están en la basura? Y tanto trabajo que cuesta tener un carro.
They were so happy to be reunited, but the minute he saw her old Volkswagen, he made fun of it. She wasn't too happy about that, but right there an idea occurred to her. Teresa asked her brother if she could visit him one day in the U.S. He said to visit whenever she wanted to. He had tons of room in his house. Before they said goodbye, she took down his phone number and address. She noticed that the town was called Fort Bragg.
Le digo, bueno, y si algún día yo me animo a ir, me recibirías en tu casa. Y me dijo, sí, cuando quieras, hay un montón de cuartos ahí, donde quiera te puedes quedar. Tengo hasta carros en el jardín ahí estacionados porque no los utilizo. Dije, bueno, pues un día que me anime te voy a llamar, dame tu teléfono. Y me dio el número.
Her brother, like so many Mexicans in the 1980s, migrated to El Norte. People were leaving the big cities as well as rural areas. The reasons are complex, but among them is that Mexico was undergoing a profound economic and political crisis.
Pasó el tiempo, luego yo tuve varias dificultades y dentro de todas mis dificultades pues ocurrió mi embarazo.
Life became more difficult in many ways for Teresa. At work, she was increasingly bullied by her male colleagues. And then she discovered that she was pregnant. Maybe this was a good time to visit her brother.
Entonces dije, yo tengo que hacer algo drástico porque no puedo seguir yo en esta situación.
Something drastic was needed. She could not remain in that situation.
And she was also excited about the trip. She wanted to travel by bus to sample regional foods and see local art along the way.
Dije, entonces, yo voy en el camión. Yo quiero viajar, quiero ver qué hay más allá de León, de México. Voy a ver cómo son las ciudades, voy a probar diferentes tipos de comida, voy a ver qué artesanías tienen. O sea, yo tenía mucha curiosidad y mi gusto por la comida.
It took the bus 3 days to get to the border. Teresa traveled 1,500 miles from León over the mountains and through the Sonoran Desert, all the way to Tijuana.
At the border, Teresa crossed the bridge by foot, and when the customs officer asked her the reason for her trip, she told him she was on a holiday. 3 months vacation.
She would continue north, passing through Los Angeles, San Francisco, Santa Rosa, Hillsburg, and finally, many hours, 3 buses and 1 taxi ride later, Fort Bragg. She was nauseous due to her pregnancy.
Para esto yo ya había llamado a mi hermano millones de veces en diferentes teléfonos y no me contestaba. Y dije, pues yo estaba ahora sí que perdida en la mitad de no sabía ni dónde ni qué iba a hacer si se llegaba la noche.
And all along the way, she kept calling her brother with no answer.
Finally, at sunset, she felt the salty breeze and saw the sea for the first time in her life, right here in Fort Bragg.
Por fin, lo primero que veo fue el mar. Bonito, así que, ¡ay! Por fin voy a vivir a un lado del mar. Dije yo que no conocía el mar. Vine a convivir a un lado del mar. Pues yo me imaginaba un encuentro bonito porque dije, bueno, pues éramos 3 hermanos que crecimos juntos. Aparte de ser hermanos, éramos buenos amigos y nos teníamos mucha confianza. Usábamos la misma ropa, íbamos a la misma escuela, entonces yo tenía... Esa es la esperanza de que va a ser igual que como andábamos chicos.
Teresa imagined all the good stories she was going to share with her brother. She hoped for the best vacation. It would be like when they were kids.
It was dark when the taxi stopped. When she saw the house, she was sure the driver was mistaken. Her brother's house would not be this run down, with 2 old cars parked on the lawn.
It's March 1990, 2 days before Teresa's 25th birthday. She is standing at her brother's door, finally. Before we continue with Teresa's story, we want to fill you in on a few things. Fort Bragg is the largest town on the Mendocino coast, but with about 7,000 people, it is still a small, mostly rural town, and where the majority of Latinos have settled.
When Teresa arrived in 1990, the Molino, the Georgia Pacific lumber mill, the second largest redwood mill in the U.S. for over a century, was still open, though its glory days were long past. At its height, it employed 2,000 workers, including many Latinos. El Molino was part of the culture and blue-collar identity of Fort Bragg until 2002, when it closed its doors for good.
Also, the Latino community was growing a lot during this time period. Then, President Ronald Reagan's Immigration Reform and Control Act had been passed in 1986, known widely as La Amnistía. It was a mixed bag. It did allow many migrants to legalize their status. This was huge. On the other hand, it became harder to cross the border and find work without papers. Okay, let's get back to our story.
Se abrió la puerta, mi hermano salió, había como 8 adultos en la casa, niños y un montón de gente. Y mi hermano no estaba como de muy buen humor. Me dijo, ¿qué haces aquí? Le dije, pues recuerdas que te mandé una carta para decirte que iba a venir. Pues ya estás aquí, pásate. Y dije, oh, Dios mío.
When he opened the door, she could see that there were many adults and children in the house. Her brother was not happy. He had not answered her calls. He didn't even ask how she got there. He just said, yeah, well, you're here now. Come in. Teresa felt terrible.
Me quedé. Ahora sí que como si estuvieras a medio mar, sin ninguna dirección. Ahí ahogándote en medio, esperando que una mano o alguien llegue a salvarte.
Those first days, she felt so alone, as if she were drowning in the middle of the sea.
She felt better once she started working. She got a job in Noyo Harbor, which was an active port for over 100 years by then. She worked at a sea urchin processing plant, cleaning the sea urchins. It was hard work. It was always cold, and the 14-hour shifts felt much longer.
Me tocó también trabajar en erizo, y tristemente pues es un trabajo bien pesado, muy frío. Trabajábamos 14 horas.
After a while, she started questioning if this was the only work she could get. People told her, look, even doctors, nurses, college graduates, everyone who is Latino starts working in el erizo.
Y yo preguntaba, bueno, ¿qué no hay otra cosa en que trabajar aquí? Solamente hay pescado y erizo. No hay otra cosa más. Y me decían, no, eso es todo lo que hay. Esos son los únicos trabajos. Aquí trabajan doctores, enfermeras, gente que viene muy preparada de México, pero todos llegan aquí.
She wanted more, something that would satisfy her curious mind. The answer would come, but it would take time.
But in the meantime, her life took new and unexpected turns. She made the decision to stay in the U.S. once her child was born. While she worked, her baby was well taken care of by a Latina in the community. And now she had 4 jobs. She also had started learning English with a teacher in exchange for cleaning her house.
Trabajaba en el erizo en la mañana, luego en el hotel, luego me iba a Burger King, luego limpiaba casas con mi amiga. Y a veces cuando tenía fines de semana, que salía temprano, trabajaba con la maestra.
Then she met the man that would become her husband, and they started a family. Her son soon had 3 little sisters. But her search for meaningful work still eluded her. Little did she know she would soon begin to find her inner norte. It's now 1997 and her son is in grammar school. He has an assignment that no one in the family can understand. Something about a mission?
Me acuerdo que mi hijo un día estaba muy triste porque le dejaron un proyecto sobre estas misiones. Yo no supe exactamente qué era lo que me decía él que hiciera. Ni mi primo también me trató de ayudar. Y lo único que hicimos fue pegar los palitos en un pedazo de cartulina.
Her son understood the teacher, but he was not able to explain what the project was about. The family tried to help. They ended up by gluing some sticks onto cardboard. The next day, her son had to present this assignment at school, and Teresa invited her cousin and one of her brothers to go with them. They had to solve the mystery.
Y cuando llegamos al salón a ver los proyectos, ¡ay, qué tristeza me dio que todos tenían tremendos modelos de lo que eran las misiones, con su jardín, con sus cercos alrededor, su casita en medio. Todo dije, esto lo hicieron los papás, esto no es un trabajo de niños. Y mi hijo tenía solamente esa cartulina con palitos pegados sin ningún ni dibujo ni nada, solamente los pegamos ahí porque no sabíamos qué hacer. Yo me sentí tan mal, dije, impotente de que cómo va a presentar él esto. Ahora sí que era un trabajo inaceptable. Por eso porque dije, no, de ahora en adelante yo tengo que investigar qué es lo que está pasando, cómo está construida la escuela, qué es lo que hacen.
When they entered the classroom, they looked around and saw that the other students had perfect models of a mission with little gardens and fences. Their project didn't even come close to those other ones. Teresa was mortified that her son was put in this position, all because she and her family didn't understand the assignment. And she knew that she wasn't alone.
Entonces, cada vez que íbamos a las juntas, yo escuchaba que muchos papás decían, es que yo no le puedo dar a mi hijo a hacer la tarea. Cada junta era la misma historia. No podemos ayudar a nuestros niños, ni tampoco estamos haciendo nada para sobrepasar esa barrera.
Every time she went to the parent-teacher meetings, she heard the same story, but no one was doing anything to solve the problem, the school or the parents.
Yo empecé por tratar de aprender más inglés para poder leer con mi hijo. Y una vez que aprendí más inglés, dije, bueno, tiene que haber una solución, va a ser un grupo de padres o alguien que nos enseñe, que nos oriente cómo es el sistema escolar, cómo los podemos apoyar. Y pues no, tristemente me di cuenta que no había nada de eso. Entonces dije, no, pues entonces yo lo voy a tomar por mi cuenta. Yo me regreso al colegio y empiezo a aprender.
So Teresa decided that she would do something about it. She took 2 gigantic steps. She enrolled in college so that she could read with her son. Then, she booked the community room at the local library in the evenings from 6 to 9 p.m. And she invited all the Latino parents to join her new study group.
It was like her true purpose was revealed to her. In El Norte, she found the opportunity to learn and teach again, and she felt the same fulfillment she had as a teenager teaching adults to read and write.
Digo, yo sí quiero progresar por todos. Dije, ok, ya fui mamá, ya me casé, ya tengo, mi esposo ya tiene su negocio, pues ahora ya voy a buscar lo mío.
She was married, a mother of 4 children, and her husband had his own business. She had helped him too. Now, it was time for her to move forward, for herself and for everyone.
I met Teresa around that time. She was 37 years old. She was bilingual and had gotten her high school equivalency and 2 associate degrees at the local college. One day she told me that she was going to get her bachelor's degree at Sonoma State University.
So now teaching became her career.
Yes, after running the study group for a few years, she started teaching in the middle school, at the migrant education program, and at a local nonprofit. Then, Mendocino College hired her to help students prepare for the GED. I remember how dedicated she was to those students, even driving them on her own time to Lake County, the only place where they could take the test.
It's June 2007, 10 years after she started the study group. Teresa has done her hair, her nails, and her makeup. She has placed the tasseled cap on her head, and under the ceremonial black robe, she's wearing her best clothes. Today is graduation day. She's receiving her bachelor's degree from Sonoma State University. But just as the ceremony is beginning at the outdoor theater, one of those huge summer storms rolls in.
Estábamos en la fila para entrar a donde iba a ser la graduación y que empieza a llegar una tormenta terrible. Acabamos todos empapados. Había muchachos llorando. ¡Ay, mi peinado, mis pestañas, que mis zapatos, que se me va a arrugar no sé qué, que los chinos, que tanto que pagué por el salón! Y yo no hallaba si reírme, llorar. Yo estaba contenta porque dije, esto es un momento muy especial. Estaba mi esposo, mis hijos. No me la creía.
Within minutes, everyone was drenched. Many students were pretty upset that their hair and makeup was getting ruined. But she just laughed until her tears joined the raindrops that were running down her face. Nothing could ruin this moment for her.
No me la creía. Hasta que ya me llamaron, me dieron mi diploma. Y dije, ¡ay! Y me dieron mi ramo de flores. Una cosa muy especial. Mucho orgullo. Vi mi trabajo, pues el fruto de mi trabajo, de mis desveladas, de todo.
She couldn't believe it was happening until they called her name and handed her the diploma. Her whole family was there that day to cheer her on. Teresa called that diploma the fruit of her labor. Staying up all those nights to study was worth it.
Ay, Dios mío, fue toda la experiencia que tuve en el colegio y la universidad. Fue como la ventana que nunca había abierto, que nunca había visto. Porque ahí crecí emocionalmente, profesionalmente, como ser humano, como madre de familia y como persona.
This diploma opened a window that she didn't even know existed. Her initial reason to study, to help her son succeed in school, had transformed into something much bigger. That early spark back when she was in the convent teaching adults was now a professional path.
Todo comenzó como un servicio social y acabó siendo una profesión para mí.
It was at that moment that she felt she had finally arrived. And by lifting herself up, she was also lifting up her family, her students, and her community.
Aquí, cuando necesite. Traje unos colores, porque cuando hagamos las notas también ustedes pueden usar colores para que distingan notas y ejemplos.
We are back in Teresa's classroom at Mendocino College. This year, 2023, she celebrates 33 years of living in Fort Bragg and 23 years of teaching. She has witnessed changes in her adult students who, as she says, dare to go back to school.
Cuando yo recibo un estudiante, yo siempre trato de inculcarle que todo lo que haga, todo lo que logre, va a ser no solo de beneficio para él como persona, sino también para su familia y para su comunidad. Entonces, y cuando tú ayudas a ese estudiante a que pruebe el éxito, somos como las abejas, vamos a volver, queremos seguir probando más éxitos, no nos quedamos solamente con uno.
For this podcast, Teresa and I spoke at length about her teaching philosophy. At its core, she tries to make something crystal clear to each one of them, that their achievements not only benefit them, but also their family and community. We are like honeybees, she says. We always come back for more.
Yo soy parte de la comunidad, porque desde el momento que yo decidí a quedarme en este país, en este pueblo, ya me consideraba parte de todo. Aquí comencé mi familia, aquí cumplí todos mis sueños, aquí encontré todo el apoyo que yo necesitaba. Entonces, desde ese momento yo ya era parte de esa comunidad.
Teresa began to consider herself part of the community the moment she decided to stay in this country, in this town. This is where she has raised her family and where she has found the support she needed to fulfill her dreams.
Yo considero que después de haber vivido un valle de lágrimas, ahora estoy viviendo la gloria. Y sé que si de alguna forma sufrí algo y batallé muchísimo, valió la pena. Si tuviera que volver a vivir todo lo que viví para estar donde estoy, lo volvería a hacer con mucho gusto. No cambiaría nada.
After so many tears and suffering so much, she says that it was worth it. She always tells her children, if I had to relive everything I had been through, I would gladly do it again. I wouldn't change a thing.
Teresa never forgets what it means to start a new life here, because so many of her students have just arrived.
So true, Diana. And what is so powerful to me is to see how she confronted so many obstacles and still she's come so far. As immigrants, we come here with so many dreams, and we are told, as she was told, that our possibilities are slim because we don't speak English, because we have no money to go to school or open a business. Teresa has opened doors here for herself and also for others.
In this season of Nuestro Norte, join us as we discover unknown histories and the people that make Mendocino Latino.
El norte está en cualquier parte. Uno hace el norte.
We can tell our stories. We can have a chronicle of this.
Quiero seguir estudiando para poder ser alguien en la vida.
I think it's pretty common in our culture to story tell, but nobody that I know of has video recorded or a podcast of those stories.
Han pasado tantas cosas que se pierde uno por seguir el sueño americano.
Nuestro Norte is an original production of MendoLatino. If you liked this episode, please share it far and wide and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This episode was produced by Laura Ubate, a Colombian audio storyteller. Mixing and mastering by Daniel Murcia. Special thanks to California for the Humanities, KCYX, Mendocino Broadcasting Corporation, and the Community Foundation of Mendocino, who supported the production of this pilot episode.
Special thanks to Ligia Solis and all of our community producers and advisors who are the heart and soul of this project. I'm Diana Coriat.
And I'm Loreto Rojas. Hasta pronto.